G'day, welcome, I'm Steve Hay and welcome to the wonderful world of woodworking with Carpetech. Today we're going to be covering veneering. Let's try something else. Now, I put that straight down on the veneer because that's a pretty easy veneer to use. But what I said before is key it. Now, in a lot of cases, people won't have the next plane that I'm going to use, but I'll show it to you anyway. If I'm doing a big panel, I'll definitely key it. This is what they call a toothing plane. You can see the serrations. It's not a flat blade like a normal cabinet plane, and its sole function is to abrade the surface. So if I'm doing a big job, side of a cabinet or something like that, the first thing I'll do will be to grab that plane and run it all over the substrate. So diagonally, other diagonal, and you see that it's all nicely scratched and scarred. What that does, it breaks up the brightness or the flatness or shininess of the substrate, and all those little scratches and undulations, they act as little reservoirs for the glue to go in. Then when it shrinks, it pulls them down into that and gives you a much better grip on whatever it is you're putting on top. If you don't have one of those, and I guess not many people do, 80 grit or 100 grit sandpaper, and you do exactly the same thing. Just put it on a, actually, I'll see if I can get a third sheet happening. There you go. Or a sixth. Get a standard cork block. What I do with all my cork blocks is I get a bit of plywood. Whatever the thickness of the plywood is, I cut that off the cork and then glue it on the top. So I end up with the same thickness cork block, but it's got a hard surface. And that's good when you're doing veneer. You want a hard surface to sand with, because if you've got a soft one, if there's any imperfections in what you're sanding, they can go into the cork, and so you're just actually smoothing out an imperfection, you're not taking it out. Whereas if you've got a hard piece on the back that's got a little bit of Laminex attached to it, that's got nothing, it's just got straight plywood on it. So let's try. And when you're, little trick, when you're putting sandpaper on, a lot of people will just wrap it like that, and you see this bit here, that gets caught and that'll rip your timber, that'll rip your paper. Whereas put your thumb on, hold it there, stretch it over, and you'll notice there's no belly in the sandpaper to catch. So we'll just put this over here for a tick. Won't do all this. But if I just go over here lightly, and we go. That way I've broken the surface up and it's now rougher. Not as effective as a toothing plane, but heck of a lot cheaper. Okay, the other thing you can use a cork block with plywood is, you can use it actually as a veneer hammer. You can put your veneer down, use the edge of the hard piece, and you can rub your veneer down like that. So let's get a bit of cranky stuff. I think I'll use a bit of this. Find out which is the up. That's the up, that's the down. This is the side we're going to glue down. Okay. And when your finger's through, you think, oh no, that's through. No. Give it 2 more runs just so it comes away. You don't want any fibres hanging on there at all. This is the side we're going to glue down. So glue on this side and glue onto there, and veneer hammer. What I want to happen is when I lay this down, I actually want it, I call it curious wood, because it'll turn around and look at you. So what I want to happen when I've glued it down is for it to curl up and fight against the glue. That's what I want. Whether or not it happens, I don't know. All right. Now, this part here is what we're putting down, so we'll wax some glue on that. Another thing, if you're using hide glue, and if you've been working on the car or something, or doing a staining job, and your hands are really messy, whack some hide glue on it. Make sure it's not too hot, because it does burn. That bit did. And it is the best hand cleaner out, and your hands just feel so nice and smooth afterwards. Okay, that's my sanding block with a piece of plywood on it. So we'll use that to hold it down. It's not going to do what I wanted it to do. I'm too good at doing what I do that I can't get it to go wrong when I want it to. All right. Say, for example, it did, I know walnuts are beauty for doing this. It'll curl up. Even though you've got it down, it will curl back up. This is something you can do with hide glue that you cannot do with any other glue. If it's curling up like that and it won't sit down, oh beauty, it's just starting to curl up a little bit. What you can do, you just paint the whole lot of it with hide glue. And very similar to plywood, what you've done is you've equalised the moisture. So it will then lay flat. And then I'm going to use a veneer hammer only because I don't want to get glue all over this. And then you just re-hammer it down and it will lie dead flat. Now, there's a couple of great things that happen when you do this. First of all, the obvious one is the veneer will lie flat and you've equalised the moisture. But the other thing is, if there's any little hair cracks or little, I stress, inclusions or splits, the glue will actually fill them. And you can put a polish over the top. It won't affect any finish that you use. When hide glue dries, it crystallises, and so when I go to sand that off, that's going to be just a really hard finish, and I can rub sandpaper over that and it won't clog the sandpaper. Whereas if you're using a PVA, if any of you have, and I'm sure you have, you've done a job and you're sanding it, there's a bit of glue there, and you're using sandpaper, it clogs the sandpaper up and just, becomes a little bit frustrating at times. That is one of the big joys of using hide glue. When it dries, it's crystallizes and hard. Downside, if you've had it in a press and a little bit has creeped out on the side, be very, very careful, because it's like a razor blade. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone like that and sliced my finger very badly. So just be wary of that. But that's a great thing to do with hide glue.